In the next edition of It's About Money, my guests will be TJ Fogarty and Agustin Amoresaguia. I'm sorry that I'm botching that up, but we will talk about it. They're registered representatives who work with veterans. Stay tuned for the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. I'm excited to have our guests today, TJ Fogarty and Agustin Amoresaguia. So again, apologies for
No worries. Happens all the time.
Anyway, so you're both focused, you're registered representatives and you focus on working with veterans. So that's very interesting to me. And we invited because we wanted to know about the Eagle Star Housing and about that non-for-profit and the work that you do in terms of seminars for veterans.
Absolutely.
So first, let's give our audience a little bit of a background on Eagle Star Housing. What is it about? It's a non-for-profit organization, right? And tell us about it.
Yeah, so how it works is that they have different facilities for housing for veterans, and some of them are more permanent housing, where it's actual apartments that they can rent out. Other ones are kind of facilities for veterans to get back on their feet, whether they're going through whatever issues that they have. It kind of helps to rehabilitate them and hopefully eventually bring them up into the actual independent housing facilities that they can stay there and live their lives.
And would those housing facilities be part of Eagle Star, or is Eagle Star more of a temporary type of housing for them?
So it's a mixture. Like some of them, I mean, we ran into a couple of homeless shelters at our Eagle Star, but one of their main facilities in Batavia, that's where you'll see different veterans actually having the apartments that they can stay at for as long as they need to.
So help me just clarify, Eagle Star is like one place is Eagle Star, or is it some Eagle Star housing in there? How does it work?
Oh yeah, so it's the company, it is Eagle Star Housing.
Okay.
And then they have different versions of the facility, whether it is to help people and try to lift them up, to the facilities that they can actually live on their own, relatively independent, without needing someone to kind of look over their shoulder and make sure they're still doing okay.
Got it. And from what I understand, it's an organization that started in Western New York, right?
Yes.
And that it's addressing the issue of homelessness for veterans. Right?
Absolutely. Yes, it has more of a focus on transitioning. They don't really want it to be a permanent housing. They want to kind of help them get back on their feet. A lot of them are in different walks of life. Some of them are homeless. Some of them are just kind of getting out of the streets, finally, getting back on their feet. Some of them are actually working full-time jobs. So you kind of see it from start to finish of, the transformation these veterans actually go through with Eagle Star Housing.
I see. And how do the veterans find Eagle Star Housing? I mean, one could be homeless and just not know, or how do they get to find out about it?
Yeah, so how it's kind of explained to us is that they reach out to Eagle Star and, I guess they do like a preliminary interview just to make sure that they're going to mix well with, because there is other veterans. And depending on what battles that they're currently facing, they want to make sure that they can peacefully bring them into the housing so they can just have somewhere to sleep, have a roof over their head,
Right, absolutely. And then how did you decide to work on veterans? Because Blue Star Housing is specifically for veterans, right?
Absolutely.
What made you decide to work with veterans?
Well, I kind of have a story of my own. I've gotten very close to my grandfather-in-law. My wife's grandfather, his name's Ignacio, served in the military in the mid-1900s. And, it was such a short amount of time in his life. But the way he talks about it, it feels like it took up a lot of his mind. You can see the effect that it has on them serving. And it kind of just had an effect on me. And, I just wanted to kind of help more people like him. I just feel like he himself was underserved, unfortunately, after everything he did. And, I don't like to see people go through that. So, to me, I was very passionate about it. I wanted to find a way to give back to veterans, and I came across Eagle Star, thank God.
Yeah, that's very nice. Well, because he comes from the silent generation, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then they really didn't talk about it.
They don't talk
still
about
had
it.
some needs about
Absolutely.
it. The more recent veterans try to express a little bit more. At least we have cognition that this is happening, a challenge for them. What about you, TJ? What got you interested in?
Yeah, so I actually have had quite a few family members. Both of my grandpas and their brothers, they all served. Fortunately, most of them passed away when I was at a very young age. My uncle served in the Air Force. My stepdad served in the Marines. And luckily for them, after they did their time in the military, they were able to find stable jobs that they're actually still working. But how we actually got introduced to Eagle Star, we were doing a field event in our very first year, Blueberry Fest out in Hilton, actually, which we're going to be back at this weekend. And one of the veterans that lived at the facility came up to our table and was interested in having a conversation. So we gave him a call like that very next week, and he said, you know what, I think these topics would actually be very beneficial to everyone that lived at that facility that he was in at Eagle Star. So that's kind of how we got into doing these seminars.
Did you know each other before you became registered representatives, or did you meet each other at work?
We met each other at work.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Sounds like you clicked. I mean,
Yeah, we do a lot of work together. Definitely, It's very natural for us to work together. Yeah.
And so the person that you met at the table at Hilton Blueberry Fest is you talked to him about different topics, or how did it come about that he said, oh, this is perfect for you to come over?
Yeah, so I believe what we did, just judging off of memory from a year ago, is we did a raffle. People can enter into it for free, and then there is an option for people to check off different topics that they would like to learn a little bit more information on. So that's how it all started. And when we reached out to him, he kind of led it himself. He was like, you know what, I actually really do think these topics would be valuable to share with the entire house, the entire facility.
And what kind of topics are examples of the things that you guys talk about?
We deal with, financial security, estate planning, life insurance, if necessary, long-term care. This specific veteran was very interested in long-term care. It was something that no one's ever talked to him about. He didn't think it was even available to him. So we had that conversation, and like TJ said, he said a lot of my buddies would be very interested in learning about this. So we went there, we talked to all the veterans, and it kind of blew up from there. We went to that location, and we found out, wow, there's 5 other locations. Let's see if we can also help them. And then from there, we were also able to help the employees, and it just kind of exploded. It wasn't something we were really planning on.
Sure, it just happened. If you're open to it,
Exactly.
And that's usually what happens to us. It's just natural bumping into people is usually how things get started, and then we just blow it up from there.
Oh, great! That's wonderful. And then you hold seminars, right? You go to the location and you do seminars and you talk about those various topics.
Yes.
So the disconnect for me is Blue Star, you're trying to help them find housing. So that means that their funds are limited.
That's right.
But then you're helping them with long-term care. So I'm just trying to understand. So are their needs typical compared to other people, or is it?
So we consider ourselves holistic financial planners. We don't want to just help him with long-term care. We want to help him get to a point where he could someday afford long-term care. We're all about networking. We were just at a networking event yesterday. We're constantly connecting people. We know other professionals that are involved in the veteran community, and we can help them get jobs. We can help them eventually get their own place and get on their feet. We want to build them up and get them to a point where you might not be able to get this now, but let's get you to a point where you can get this in the future.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. That's amazing. So you network to help them find jobs.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about that. What kind of process is that?
Yeah, so, it kind of depends on what they're looking for. A lot of them aren't necessarily picky on what jobs they're looking for, but we actually bumped into a business owner who he was a former veteran himself, and he hires veterans at his company as well. And he's grown his business where he's all over the country now. So that's a different way for these vets to get out there and be able to make a living for themselves and be able to strive.
Nice. So you're trying to make connections for people who have interests as veterans, but it just started with the Eagle Star housing. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. And let's see here. And how do you attract other attendees? You mentioned about the staff that work at Eagle Star Housing. Yeah. So they kind of listen in to the seminars.
So it started with just the veterans, and then next thing you know, the employees started trickling in, listening to the things we were talking about, and they came up to us afterwards, and they're like, can you possibly do this for just us sometime? Like, absolutely, we're here to serve, right? Mm-hmm. So we started doing it for employees. Next thing you know, they connected us to their HR person. The HR connected us to the higher up. So now we're actually working with them and possibly doing something for the entire company.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. So those of us who are listening, who are registered representatives, you're giving them some tips in terms of how to network.
Absolutely,
and because really you have to be open to what's out there and then go with the flow.
Yeah.
And it truly, in the business, you are looking at helping others, and when you can help them, you end up helping yourself as well.
Exactly.
So that's really great. And you help them find resources as well, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about some of the resources that you share with them.
Yeah, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, so, we connect them with jobs. We connect them with other veterans. A lot of them are going through, just tough times. There's a lot of depression in that, in that world. They don't, like you said, they don't like to talk about it, right? But once they finally start talking about it, it's like they unleash the floodgates and everything comes out at once. So for us, we've noticed it's more of a mental thing. And we like to help them in that regard, whether it's connecting them with veteran communities where they can, talk amongst themselves about it, because who's going to understand more than another fellow veteran? Mm-hmm. Whether it's connecting them to a social worker or, even a psychologist, depending on their needs. But most importantly, what we do really is just connecting them, to get a job, just getting them back on their feet. And then not just that, also helping their families. We've been able to do a lot of work with their families as well.
Okay, so it's really about showing that you care about them.
Just showing we care and helping in any way that they see fit.
Yeah. The beauty of doing some of these networking events, I mean, majority of folks there are either business owners or their boss looking to hire. Most of those people are looking to hire people. So we're able to already have people in mind from these, veteran housing companies to possibly join them and collaborate with these bosses and hopefully get them a strong job.
Oh, great. That's great. That's remarkable, because really, I think in our lives, if we can help people make connections, we may not necessarily solve the issue that they're dealing with, but if you can help them make connections, then it just makes it for a better world for all of us.
Absolutely.
So, that's great. So talk to me about your backgrounds. Is this like, before being registered representatives, did you have different jobs or did you have different careers?
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So I started in a jewelry store. I was there for about 4 years, and then after college, I kind of wanted to, expand my roots a little bit, and that's when I found New York Life. And biggest thing there for me was just being able to grow and take it as far as that you want to take it. There was just no glass ceiling per se, and you can just keep doing your thing and really make a career out of it.
That's great. What about you? So
I came from the construction world. I was always self-employed, right? There was a lot of ups and downs in the construction world, and I really enjoyed it. But, I don't think it was for me at the time. I wanted something more stable. So I became a postman. Believe it or not, I was walking 15 miles a day, delivering mail. Mm-hmm. And, great benefits, great pension. I loved the post office, but it was just something was missing, right? I didn't feel fulfilled. Like I needed more purpose in my life, and I had a son on the way. And, I always wanted to be a good role model for my son, so I always thought of how can I serve more people, better, because as a mailman, I don't feel like I'm really serving. And then I just started thinking back about my past, and, I learned a lot from my parents and my grandparents. Unfortunately, they never received the advice financially that they should have. And, they faced the consequences. We struggled a lot growing up. And I realized, that's how I can serve, is helping other people not go through that struggle. So that's what got me into the financial world, and I came across New York Life as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's great. We're going to take a quick break. Our guests are TJ Fogarty and Agustin Amoresaguia. So thank you. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The bravest person I know is my daughter, Cynthia.
My friend Sean, and he was in the Air Force.
One of the bravest things he ever did wasn't when he first enlisted. It was when he found his first support group.
It was when he asked to move in with me and my mom.
I felt like I was lost, and you gave me a place to stay.
She went on foreign soil. She went to war. But the bravest thing she did is when she asked for help.
And we're back. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. It's about money, and my guests are TJ Fogarty and Agustin Amoresaguia. So again, sorry for not saying that properly. Anyway, so you're both self-employed as registered representatives, and the show is about money. So people look up and wonder, and it's like, how do people make money? How do they make a living doing what you're doing? And it can be a struggle, right? You can be employed like you were working at the jewelry store. So a little different, but it has some possibilities that can only be stunted by your own vision of what it could be. Mm-hmm. So talk to us about your self-employment experience and suggestions you have and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, luckily through New York Life, we do get quite a few resources at our disposal that we can kind of use to better facilitate different things in the community, like the seminars, for example. But at the end of the day, it's strictly on us to do what we do. So we do get a little bit of help on the resource side of things. But other than that, I think it just really comes down to the determination, you know. I think everybody has that goal in mind, that dream life, but it takes a lot of hard work to get there. And you hear the success stories, you know, people aren't working as much as they used to, but it's because they worked every day and night just to make it to where they are. And that's where kind of our mindsets come into play. It's like, that's what we want to do. We want to just grow ourselves up as high as possible.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a struggle, right? I have a wife at home. I have a son, right? That I have that constant pressure to provide. And, you know, in a business where there's no stability, like I mentioned, I wanted stability earlier. Now I have zero stability. You know, it's kind of funny, but, you know, I also have zero ceiling, right? I have unlimited potential. And like you said, if you can envision it, if you can see it, if you can imagine it, you can make it happen. You know, I think as humans, we're capable of incredible things. And it's all about how badly do you want it. You know, you have to 100% commit. You know, I think we can all do it.
Sure, that's great. And how does your friendship or collaboration work together? Do you find that it's better to collaborate with someone, or do you think it's better to just go solo? I mean, it's probably hard to say that go solo because you're doing this together. Yeah. but talk to us about that.
I mean, I think, like Agustin said before, like we do a lot of good work together, and I think it's always better to have two minds involved than one, especially when you're helping someone with their planning. I mean, there's a million different ways that you could do it. So having a couple of brains in the conversation to, you know, put in their opinions so we can find out the best solution for that person, that makes all the world, you know.
And do you always tag team, or do you have like you meet the people interested and then you meet with that person, I meet with that person? How do you guys do it?
We normally tag team. Every once in a while we have our individual projects, but we've realized we do a lot better together just because our personalities complement each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy can talk to anybody, you know, he can talk to a wall. Like he's great at creating relationships. I'm more of the facts guy. You know, I can sit down and tell you, okay, so this is what you're making, this is what you want to make, how can we get you there? You know, so I feel like working together, collaboration is key in success, honestly.
Nice.
And same with ideas, like new ways to get out there, or different ideas to kind of bring to the public eye and help them out. I think it comes best when we sit down because, you know, you can have a lot of crazy ideas out there, but when you get two brains coming together, you can really find out the best way to do it and actually make it possible and not as crazy as it seems.
Yeah. That's great. So you lift each other, you find ways to do that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, it's a terrific business, but from what I'd read, only 1 out of 5 stay in the business because it's a very difficult one. Mm-hmm. I've been in the business for 41 years.
Wow.
And I remember the days of struggle, but then you get to a point where like, okay, this is good. I'm helping people, but you have the right idea of helping people out first. And because if you put a mindset of it's about me, it's not a good thing, right? And it also leads to not so good decisions and suggestions. But if you focus on doing well or helping people out, you know, it's just the universe is a way of giving back to you,
That's
right?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, life is about that. You pretty much get what you give to it. So So what do you see ahead? What are you seeing? What does it look like in terms of the future? How long have you been in the business again?
We're in our second year.
So
we're still in the early days.
Sure. Okay. What do you see? What is the limitless vision that you see, TJ?
I mean, I think we're just going to keep on building and growing, work as many individuals, as many businesses as possible, and eventually hire out our own staff, because I don't think either one of us want to get to a point, you know, where you just start working the people you already met. We want to keep on expanding, but also still be able to help the people that we already met. The last thing you want to do is meet someone your first year, and now you're in year 10 and you haven't talked to them since the first year of the business. But obviously, if you want to continue growing, you're going to also need some help, because you can't call everybody, you can't reach out to everybody. So having a team in the future, I think, is going to be very important for us. just so we can keep on building and growing while also maintaining the relationships that we've already built.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, same thing he just said, we just want to grow as much as possible, and we realize we can't do that on our own. It takes a team. Everyone specializes in different things. We actually just hired our first part-time assistant because we are out there trying to make relationships and make connections, with people. We don't have as much time anymore to really follow up with people and call them. So we have someone to do that now for us. And we just want to keep on growing and growing and growing, and just see where this thing goes,
Sure. That's great. That's great. So yeah, for me, I always ask the question, what am I doing that doesn't require my expertise?
Yep.
And I see 40 clients a week.
Wow.
Sometimes 50, depends on how much, if
That's
it's
amazing.
all virtual and stuff. I've been doing that for 41 years.
Yeah.
So it's the energy. I look at people who kind of, they do well and then they sit on their laurels and stop working. I think in this field, if you think of yourself as unemployed all the time, then you have the hunger and the desire to help other people, and then you just keep doing it. I have not lost passion in helping clients, and it sounds like you guys are in that
That's
space.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I have interns, so every semester now, and summer, of course, we have interns, and you teach them and you help them kind of get started, or whether or not it's even a career they want to experience, right? And then you've got a team, and so yeah, it's good. I think that in our lives, when we cross paths, if we can help people be better at what they do,
Absolutely.
why not, right? It's great, like you said, helping out a business owners, looking at employees, right? And if they have some commonalities as veterans, why not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good. That's really good. What is it about the business that makes you want to do well in it?
I was going to say, at least for me personally, it's kind of just seeing the effect on people, after you do implement something with them, they call you once a year, because, different events happen, like for example, the tariffs. Then you get a phone call being like, hey, thank you so much for helping me before all that happened. And it's just hearing those type of stories, it almost makes me think, like I'm in my early 20s. It's like, okay, when I reach my 60s, my 70s, and I have clients that I met who are the same age as me saying, hey, thank you so much for doing this. I wouldn't have been able to retire when I wanted to. Like that's going to be something I can't wait to experience, and just getting the clients just reaching back out to you and just being like, hey, thanks again for doing what you did. Like I love that. That's probably the best part of the business for myself.
Yeah, making an impact. That's
Absolutely.
great. That's great. What about you?
Well, every day is a constant reminder of how important this work is. I have a little story. I met with this 25-year-old girl about 6 months ago. She wanted to talk about life insurance, which was fine, but, I saw a need for disability insurance. She didn't think it was important to her. She said, I'm young. Why would I ever be disabled? I would never get hurt. Well, she just called me a couple weeks ago. She got hurt on the job, unfortunately, and doesn't have disability insurance. Is going to be out of work for a year. And stories like that just, is a constant reminder of this is important, It's my job. I see the value in it. Others may not see the value. It's my job to make sure that they do see the value and help them see the value because it is important. And on top of that, what keeps me in the business is, my stubborn nature. I'm competitive, right? Like you said, 1 in 5 make it in this business. We've been in our 2nd year. We've seen a lot of people leave. It's a revolving door. And to me, that's motivation. I want to keep going. I want to be that one. Why not me? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I never want to be in a position where I got to call my clients and be like, hey, I'm sorry, but I'm leaving the business. Talk to this person. They'll take care of you. Because that's just like ultimate defeat, at least to me. And if I have to do that,
Right. And how does your prior experience, how are you able to bring that knowledge and experience into what you're doing today? It's a little different than what you're doing, but what is the similarity?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the jewelry store really gave me experience on, being personable and talking to people. And, before that, I was at a pizza shop. So I think that definitely gave me some experience on just, the personal approach, just having a conversation with someone, I mean, that's as simple as it is, really. A lot of people, they try complicating things, but I like to keep it simple. I like to get to know people. And if I can help, I can help.
Sure, great.
Yeah.
How about you?
For me, unfortunately, with my past, I didn't really have the ability to develop that skill of, relationship building, but what I did have was discipline. Always been a very hard worker. I've always had good work ethic. My dad's, my parents are from Cuba. They came to this country with nothing. They built an amazing, life for us. To me, that's inspiration, right? If they can do that with nothing, I have an advantage. I was born in this country, I have all these resources available to me. I should be able to make them proud and do better, right? So I've always had that work ethic. Yeah. And, just I don't know, I guess it's like being able to also work on ourselves, something I've learned in this business. The self-development component to it is huge, right? If we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our clients. And I feel like I'm finally like starting to discover like who I am as a person, like who I was inside this whole time, So for me, it's really been like just eye-opening, you know.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I think this business allows you to, or gives you the opportunity to discover yourself.
Yes.
100%.
And when you accept who you are and know what your strengths and opportunities are,
yes,
that you could work on it. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yeah, I'm an immigrant myself. And so I always say that I wish I could bottle the enthusiasm of immigrants so that, you could just open it up. And actually, I did that in my 20s. I met with some people were having lunch. They were in their 40s and 50s. And people were so down. And I thought, wow, that's really crazy. I don't want to be their age and lose my enthusiasm. So I created an imaginary jar of enthusiasm. And I would open that when I was lacking of enthusiasm. I haven't had to open it very much because I just have a lot of enthusiasm for it. But, it's really life gives you what you give it, right? And
Absolutely.
as long as you don't give up and continue helping people. Of course, if the opposite, people take advantage of others, that's not good either. But, it's a good thing. So anyway, so great. So do you see yourself working together then as you move forward?
100%.
Absolutely. It's just the beginning. Eventually we're going to get our own office. Like I said, we're going to hire more staff. Right. Secretary, maybe you take on some more agents, it's just the beginning for us.
We've already got some plans for the next 3 years. So
I love
I'm excited
it.
to start and just see where that takes us, because neither one of us are afraid to start something. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You move on to the next thing, but we're going to try whatever it is to do it.
And the beauty of working together is when one of us is afraid or nervous, the other one gives you courage. Yes. Like yesterday, we went to a networking event. Not my strong suit. I'm not a fan of it. I was a little nervous. I was scared. It's out of my comfort zone. He was confident about it. He said, come on, we're going to have a great time. Let's just talk to people. So I went with him, But if I didn't have him, I might not have gone.
You give each other accountability.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. That's great. That's wonderful. And all the best, because sometimes people don't form good partnerships, right? Mm-hmm. But it sounds like you really understand how you could flourish and get the best out of each other to do good for people.
And that's a lesson that we've learned, because even yesterday we had a meeting with pretty much the entire office, and we were hearing from people in the business for 30 years. And one of the guys, he was pretty much solo his whole career, but he said, the biggest turning point was the joint work, because he said I would walk in, not always 100% in the head, sometimes something would happen, feeling down that day, but then you have a partner that can lift you up and really still be able to help that person when the conversation wouldn't have gone that good if you're just on your own. And it's an accountability factor as well, to make sure that you don't want to mess up and it's on the other person's shoulder,
Yeah. And one of the goals of my show here is to help educate people, give them ideas. And if anybody's out there, registered representative, thinking like, oh, I'm giving up, I hope that they're listening and kind of getting some ideas from you guys. So I thank you so much for being a part of my show. And I wish you both.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you so much for having us.
My pleasure. So thank you, TJ. Thank you so much, Agustin. And thank you, our guests, for joining us. Until next time, I'm Nannette Nocon, and it's about money.